Okay, hello. It's Riikka here with a live about surfboard collection and water-soluble oil pastels. Let me try to get you focused, and I'm not totally sure about this light. It seems that it's a bit, yeah, I think this is better. So let's for the moment use this one. And again, it seems that I'm missing all the comments. So let me just quickly go over to my computer and see that everything is working. So if you can see and hear me, please just state so I know. And well, if you want the lamp back on, I'll of course put it, but at that time being, I guess this is a much better lighting than the one I had before. So let me just quickly look. Let's see. Yeah, at least it's live now and can see it from here to my screen. Could I speak a little louder? Well, I tried to. Just keep reminding me. I'll try to keep up a little bit more and just my normal voice a little bit louder. Yeah, but what we're doing today is this layout. As you can see, it's really bulky and layered. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to be playing with these, the water-soluble oil pastels. There's 2 sets, but let me go to those a bit later. I think there's still a couple of minutes before I should actually start, so I'm starting right on time. The idea of this became, well, from the under the circumstances we're now facing and living, so probably the summer vacation plans got a little bit altered or like thrown into another year perhaps. So this is kind of giving you the vacation feel in your own home, or kind of letting you prepare to those vacation feelings, kind of having the best possible vacation but at home. So if you're not able to visit the location you were planning to, then you can do this layout kind of already and then insert the lovely beach photo afterwards, or then it's kind of a dream vacation you can journal about, or like document your dreams for future vacation. Let me check the time. Five minutes still, and it seems that I'm now more audible than before, so that's a good thing. What else? Well, maybe I'll use the 5 minutes to say a big thank you for you coming here. Unfortunately, I can't name any names because, as I said, I don't see the comments. It's a big negative thing. I think they've changed something in Facebook, but normally there would be a scroll with the comments there. But now just thank you all for coming. This is my second to last Facebook Live for Prima Marketing, as I'm not reapplying for DT term next year. So it's this and then one more in August, and then that's for me. I felt that being a part of the Prima design team for 5 years now, it's enough for me, and well, they need to have someone new to show something new for you guys, because I honestly think that I've kind of well, you know my style, and it's all kind of old in that way. So better to step aside and let new blood in, new styles, new people, new inspiration for you. But yeah, let's get started. 3 minutes still, but it takes some time. Well, yeah. As I said earlier, I'm working with Surfboard, one of the new-ish collections. It's perfect for anything beach themed and summer. So there's different patterns. And you don't have to be a surfboard lover to use this collection, because there's beautiful floral motifs, there's even like solid kind of things, and beautiful wave shapes. So if you love ocean or beaches, this one is for you. Even these kind of embroidery styled patterns, and these are adorable, these little people, and kind of a really modern pattern here and back, and of course a lot of shells, which I used here as the decoration. So there's a lot of fussy cutting, but I've done that already beforehand, so you don't have to see me cut. If you don't want to do the cutting yourself, naturally the Surfboard also has collection of ephemera, so ready cut out shapes, both chipboard and like paper or cardstock. So let me move the 12 by 12 pad aside, and this is the paper I chose to use as my background. I was thinking whether to put it horizontal or then vertical, but I kind of wanted to highlight the vertical aspect of the whole page, so that's why I chose also the lines to go. Did I said? I think I said vertical, but anyway, horizontal. You know what I mean, even though I babble something completely different. Yeah, the other thing I'm going to show is the water soluble oil pastels. I'm working with the basic set, but there's also the rustic set that has a little bit muted tones. This is actually maybe my favorite palette wise, but these brighter tones go perfectly for the vacation mode and for this layout. So let's get started. I'm adding first a layer of gesso to the middle of the page. Why I do that is that, well, I was trying to analyze why I actually did do it. It's probably that I want a little bit more control of the layers coming on top, because gesso as a primer, it kind of seals the paper. So the next thing, I'm going to use those pastels to create a kind of watercolor look to the page, and because there's a kind of block between the paper and the wet media, then I have a lot more open time to play with the color. Whereas if I would apply it directly to the paper, then it would soak in and create a big blob of color. Then I would need to work differently than I will do now. The other thing is that when I'm applying the gesso like this, it kind of hinders the pattern a little, so it creates a more solid looking background for the photo. Kind of highlights all the layers coming on top rather than having the bold pattern underneath. So just a layer of gesso. You could use clear gesso as well, but I'm going to use white gesso to another part of the layout as well, so that's why I chose white. A quick dry. when gesso dries, it turns totally matte, so that's an easy way to see it. It's dry. This one is not totally, but let's do something other than just dry. So I'm taking the oil pastels and just scribble on top of the gesso. If there wouldn't be gesso, then I would need to use maybe a piece of plastic or something, or kind of the craft mat to add the colors, because if I now add the water on top and there would be just the paper, it would get absorbed to the paper right away, and I wouldn't be able to turn it into a watercolor paint like I'm doing now. You can't see the lines anymore after applying the water, but rather it comes as a paint. If there wouldn't be the layer of gesso underneath, then it would just, well, hinder the lines a little bit, but there would be a blob or the scribbles visible even after applying the water. And also this allows me to have more playtime. I can just first make them as watercolors and then start to move them around with a wet brush, rather than being really hasty to move them and not get absorbed into the paper. If you want more color, you can do more layers, or then dilute the colors less. So they are good for if you are coloring, for example, stamped images. You can create your own palette in the, like your craft sheet. Just let me show you. Add a little bit of color and then take a small brush and use that to color your stamped images. Or then break a blank page and use that as a first layer. Sorry again, we need to dry. Let's say that's now enough. I would always recommend using more than just one color in a background and kind of let them blend into each other rather than blending them together in a separate sheet, because that creates an infinite amount of different color choices in the page. But as they are water soluble, these oil pastels, I can also use them for stamping. Let me show you from the done page. It's this part here. That's done with a stencil, but not through the stencil, but a little bit differently. And the actual stamping, there's maybe this much left to be seen in the page. Because, well, I'm all about layers. It's fun to build them. So for stamping, I'm taking a Finnabar stamp. Something with more solid pattern will work maybe better in this technique rather than really just thin lines. So I'm applying the color directly to the stamp. Then I take a water mister and add some water kind of to activate the ink, and then I just use it as a stamp. If I want more of a watercolor effect, then add just more water and it's then more hazy, more like just watercolor looking. And then just dry the stamp. And if you want to add more, then just add another layer. And the other option, naturally I could do this and go through the stencil, but I wanted this lovely kind of lace pattern to show. So I did that kind of the same thing than with the stamp. I add the color to the stencil and not through it. So I'm going lightly over the design, again using the water soluble oil pastels in kind of the same colors I already have going in the background. Then a few touches of water, and then to the page. Depending how much you put water in it, it's kind of affects how clean, how crisp the image will be. The more you put water, like with the stamping, the more you get just hazy kind of lines. But I did maybe 2 or 3 squirts of water and I got the whole thing as much I wanted, kind of that delicate lace pattern happening there. And the fun thing with these water soluble pastels is I don't have to clean my stencil right away because it's water soluble. I can just tuck this one and then clean it afterwards. If it would be gesso or anything acrylic based, then you would need to clean it right away. So that's kind of the background effect going. Then let's do some embellishments and use that as background tool as well. Now where's my double-sided tape? I know I did got it. There. So let's add some water. No, not water. Double-sided tape to the craft sheet and place, where are they? Here. These are the art pebbles, just clear pebbles. You could use as they are, but I love these because they are so versatile. You can turn them into pearls like I'm going to do with these, or rusty knobs using rust paste. It's all about the thing you put on top or under, because you can naturally paint the bottom of the pebble as well to turn it into a pearl or something. But I'm using these, like the flat side to the table and the dome side up, and tinting some white pearl acrylic paint using these crayons. Let's create some pink and some bluish ones. So this is just a piece of packaging. I'm now applying the crayons on top. Then I'm taking the white pearl and a silicone brush, a dollop, maybe a little bit more to that one, and mix it in. As the acrylic paint, now there's a here in the middle. As acrylic paint is wet, that activates the oil pastel and you're able to tint the white paint into pink. But remember, it's going to be pink. It's not going to turn into vibrant red because of the pigment in the paint itself, because there's some white in that one. If you want an acrylic paint using these pastels, then try soft gloss or soft matte gel instead, because they dry totally clear so you're able to then have the true color showing after drying. And same with everything. If you want just a hint of green to your yellow paint, for example, you can tint yellow paint with these, or if you want a hint of pink to your blue, or whatever, they are easy way to add a little bit of color to any paint. And as the base is now acrylic, it will stay on top of the plastic dough. Just needs a couple of layers. And why I put the double-sided tape first is just to save me some time, because if you hold the pebble in your fingers, there's always going to be those gaps in the paint where your fingers have been, and there's a lot of paint in your fingers and not in the pebbles, so it's easier to just add a piece of double-sided tape to the table or anything, a piece of cardboard, and you use that as a kind of thing to mount the pebbles to be painted. Now they need to dry a little bit, but I can use some of the paint already to the back of my layout. I'll add a teeny tiny bit of water to make it more fluid, and then splashes, kind of little splashes from the sea or ocean, lake, any kind of water. And as you can see, I'm trying to get the splashes to these parts, not so much to the center or the middle, because there's the layers with the photo coming, so no kind of need to put too much underneath it all, because then it won't show, but rather kind of adding that shimmery effect to the rest of the page. And if you want, you can always use your palette knife, credit card, whatever, and add a touches of paint this way also for extra little bit of bling in there. Now you can see them better when I actually wiggle the page. But again, let's take this one. Kind of remember to add it quite near the edges if you're following the same composition, because like I said with the stamping, there's just a teeny tiny bit of it showing. To me, that's kind of my process. I end up doing a lot of layers that are not that visible in the end result as well, because it's about the creative stuff. It's about the making of the project as well as the ready project, but still you might want to have something showing from all your trouble. Now let's see if the pebbles are ready for another layer. Let's see. And in this stage, let's say it's handy to have as thick paint as possible, adding as little water to the mix as possible, because that's now I'm looking for a word that kind of reacts with the binding agent of the acrylic paint. I can't now make up my mind of the right word, but you know what I mean. It dilutes, that's the word, dilutes the binding agent as well. And you want to have that sturdy binding agent on top of such a sleek surface as these pebbles have. It's just really smooth plastic, as it should be, because you want that beautiful shine. Then let's dry these so I can set them aside. Hopefully they are now dry enough. If I would have thought about this a little bit more, I would have put them on top of a little cardboard or something, which would be easier to move aside than on top of my actual table, but it goes like this as well. One more. These now have 2 layers. If I wouldn't be doing a live, I maybe would add another one, like a 3rd layer. Or if you want, you can naturally add a layer of white gesso first and then come in with the pearly paints. But also I feel like the not totally covering gives so much to the pearly effect as well. So now we have done the background layers, the pearls. Let's move to making sand. But first let's add a couple of guiding lines, let's say, to the page. This is just Baker's Twine, white and golden, kind of going with the shimmer I have going on with the pearly paints. And white is always kind of refreshing. This is just an element I use quite often as a horizontal or vertical, combining everything, making the composition stretch from side to side of the page. It's really easy, just a few lengths of twine, and that kind of gives you the grounding effect, because it runs from the side, from other side to other side, grounding everything in their path. And it's easier to have a little bit longer pieces of twine and then snip them off, rather than trying to get them in the right size. Or at least that's how I usually do it. It's easier to have it under my thumb. Then let's mix the sand. It's a 2-step sand, let's say. First with the delicate layers that needs a little bit more drying, and then adding pebbles on top. So my base for the sand, well, maybe I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's these places here. Rather, actually, that one is showing it more. There's teeny tiny grains in the background, and then these pebble or more pebble kind of shapes are coming on top later. So there's a number of ways to do sand. You can actually use the white sand paste Feinobar has in her, come on, open, in her whole repertoire, but you can make your own. These soft body gels, soft gels are really handy for such work. So this one is soft gloss gel. It could be matte. Both go. Let me clean my silicone brush so I don't mix it together with my white gesso. That's why I was referring that I'm using white gesso in another way in the S layout. And then this is the hardest part, because these tend to go everywhere. These are mini art stones. Let me mix these in. The gel makes the base for this paste. And why I add a little bit of white gesso, I want to color it or tint it a little bit. Now, if you would like to have not white sand, but more like a beachy brown beige tone, this would be perfect to add the pastels to the mix, like what we did with pearly paint. But I wanted this to have kind of white dreamy sands effect, so I just added white gesso. If you don't want to add that, that's also fine, but to me that brings a little bit more to kind of that sandy effect. Otherwise the gel dries clear, so it's just these granules that you are going to see. With the addition of white, it's more like a texture paste. And what I added on top of the mini art stones, these are the teeny tiny glass beads, because they're in sand you can find various grain sizes. This is kind of mimicking it, so it's not just the mini art stones, but there's also the pebbles, kind of mini pebbles in there in the form of the glass beads. Let me try to fit everything in. And again, I'm using a plastic packaging as my mixing table. I could do this on top of a palette naturally, but maybe that's the lazy part in me, because then when I'm done with this I can just throw it, whereas the palette I would have to clean. And to be frank, I find it easier to scoop everything out of a piece of plastic packaging easier than from a palette. Maybe if I would have a flat palette, but they have these little grooves, so it's not as easy to go in and scoop everything. This kind of paste needs a lot of drying time, so probably during this live this is not going to be dry. But on the other hand, we don't need it to be totally dry. That's kind of one reason. Again, I'm avoiding the middle part because there's the layers coming on top, so no need to put it underneath there. Also, it makes things a bit harder to adhere. Naturally, you can again use a heat tool to dry this, but as it's so much like acrylic based, it boils really easily, and if it boils, it kind of loses the grainy texture it has. So I would advise against using the heat tool for drying this sandy paste. If you are in a hurry, then try, for example, drying it underneath, but better if you let it air dry. Like so. Now this one goes to the side just a little bit, hopefully to dry a little bit, and we can move to the paper layers. Now I wonder how long it has been off focus. So sorry about that. Hopefully not for long. Hopefully I caught it on time. But now we're moving into the layers. And as you can see, there's a lot of going on, but it's kind of step by step. So first we do the paper layers, and then all of these extra little knickknacks are coming on top or after it. So it looks maybe more difficult than it is. I'm not sure if it looks difficult, but if it does, then don't worry, it's really easy. Now if you have your favorite vacation photo, you can use that, but I actually took my vacation photo from the Capri collection because I didn't have any beachy photos, so That's why I nicked one from Capri. But again, you don't have to use a beachy kind of image here. You can, for example, use your own photo, like self-portrait, if it's about your dream vacation, or a suitcase, or then you can put an envelope there, kind of where you can then journal about the dream vacation. So the first layer, or the first thing for the paper layers, is to cut some paper. As you could see, I don't measure, I just cut some random pieces. Then let's see what kind of, I'm now going through the 12 by 12 pad. Maybe I'll use one of these. Because these little people, it's actually something I'm used here as well, because of the lovely tone it has, the beautiful teal. And if you place them carefully, you don't have to kind of see those little people or swimmers, vacation goers, beach goers anymore, but it's more like just the color and tones. If you, on the other hand, love these little characters, then by all means use it so that they show. But in here I just wanted the color more than the pattern. So when I'm doing my layers behind the photo, I usually take a bigger piece, approximately the same size as my photo, or a little bit bigger. Can keep everything in my hand and start to slowly kind of make layers. As you could see, I turned this 180 degrees, so it's just pink and the teal, not the flamingo anymore. There I maybe would like to have a little bit of edge to the page by adding that black part there. Then let's add maybe this way. It's kind of going from, whoopsie daisy, corner to corner, making the layers a bit bigger and bigger with each addition. Now I got it crooked. Here we go. Maybe there. Now I have to remember to make it big enough to hold all the embellishments. Now it's beginning to be hard to keep it in my hand, so in comes the ever so handy stapler. Now these are, whoops, more or less secure, so and everything's fine, so let's continue adding maybe here, like in the middle. Yes, come on. A stapler is so handy when it comes to adhering paper layers. You just add one staple in there and it's fine. No need to adhere everything. And that also gives the opportunity, if you look at this one, to tuck the embellishments in later, because the layers are not fastened thoroughly to each other. So I can tuck embellishments now underneath these rather than it would be glued all together. Then there wouldn't be any possibility to add anything later on. So we have that. Now let's combine the background, which is still totally wet, with these. And haha, there's actually something showing underneath. Perfect. So you could use just foam dots to adhere, but as this needs quite a lot of dimension, let's say, then adding, yeah, they are going to be hidden. Adding just pieces of cardboard is an easy solution. You can just add any kind of packaging, thicker cardboard you might have if you have parcels coming, or whatever kind of groceries that are in a thicker cardboard box, then they are handy to be used as the kind of keeping the dimension. And then you need a lot of glue. So already we have these coming on top of the background, but to add even more dimension, I'm actually using some colorful paper straws in the colors of the collection underneath the photo. Let me see if I need to cut them so they will kind of look like they are going all the way through, even though they're not. Maybe like that, so we need to cut this one as well. Let me check on the light, by the way, it's okay-ish. Sun is not setting anytime soon here in Finland, but still it's a bit darker than we started. Put this like a half, just peeking. And if you don't have these kind of straws, they're usually in dollar stores or stores that sell cake supplies, for example. So if you don't have those, you can naturally make your own just by using the papers in the collection. So then it's definitely going to be matchy with the rest of the page, like this. And now you can see there's a problem because the photo is kind of just wiggling on top. So more cardboard pieces are needed. Thinner versions here so they don't peek underneath the photo. Of course, when you look at it from the side, they are going to be seen, but on the top, not. And then I'm building kind of enough bulk to hold the photo on top of the straws. That at least to the other layout meant 4 layers. Again, you could use foam dots or home adhesive, but this is kind of a frugal way. And naturally, depending on the cardboard, there's thicker versions, so the thicker version would be perfect for this one. So now we have a pedestal for a photo. Let me just mention that I'm not able to see the comments, so if you have any questions, Nathalie is here to help. Thank you so much. But I'll go through all the comments afterwards, so if there's anything you want to ask me, or, well, I miss a lot, I'll go see what you have been thinking about, suggesting. But just to let you know that I will read every comment when this is done. So this is the end result, and we are now in this stage. So actually all we have to do is the embellishing, because all the kind of bigger layers are in here. We have the step 2 of the beachy textures. Then we need to add a lot of different seashells and corals and our lovely pearly pebbles, who hopefully are totally dry now. Yep. And then of course some blooms as well. So let's get all those ready to go. And well, there's not a huge mystery to kind of what I'm then doing with the embellishments. It's all about highlighting the photo, let's say. So I'm kind of concentrating on the paper layers I already have going, or the things that I already have going here. So I don't add, for example, an embellishment here now. I'm just concentrating to the near the photo where all the layers are. This one is more interesting side that way. And well, I'm going first for the bigger pieces. Adding them in, and then adding the little ones and flowers. It's kind of going back and forth. When I add something here, then I add something there. That side is more interesting. And slowly it begins to kind of, there's a cluster, there's going to be a cluster, and probably something in here. Let me try the light now. Is it? Nope, still bad. Too harsh. Better to have it a bit more subtle. Then let's add one of the pearls already. There could be one here in the sand. Whoops. More adhesive, so it will stay on top of the wet surface, because the beachy touches are still wet, so you need kind of extra hold. Let's add that on top of the photo just a little bit. It's kind of anchoring the photo to be a part of the page, because something is then on top of the photo as well, not just everything tucked underneath. I have just one more. Nope. What about it? Okay. What about underneath here, just peeking. Then some surfboard flowers. As they are from the same collection, everything will again match all the colors. If you would use other flowers, for example, and wanted to have the same color palette in those as well, not just the same flowers, so the water soluble oil pastels again are handy. You can use the same colors you have going in the background to bring to the flowers, so then it will match. How many flowers I have? 4. Yeah, that's why I was grabbing one more, because usually an odd number of things work better than an even number. Let's add, maybe that would be okay even if I don't use a foam dot, because soon I think I need to start adding those to bring in a bit of dimension to the, what are these shells, because everything else is so heavily textured, so it would be kind of strange maybe that these would be flat compared to everything else. So I'm adding a couple here and there using the foam dots. Again, you could use the cardboard cutouts, but these are light, these are small, so the foam dots will do just perfectly for these embellishments. Then let's add the sand, and I'll finish the layering later on because it's not actually all the same. So to add the bigger pebbles to our sandy beach, I'm taking the soft gloss gel, adding it to the page where I want the pebbles to come. Naturally, now that I have the actual paste already or still wet, they will adhere to there as well, but if you want an extra piece, then this gel is really handy. And then I'm just sprinkling the, let's say, normal sized art stones on top. As everything is still wet, it's more sensible to wait a little bit for it to dry, maybe even overnight, so it's totally dry, and then tip it and kind of pour the extra off. But if you are in a hurry, then this gel is so sticky that they will hold, and these stones are so light, so even though it brings a lot of texture, it's not heavy, as at least heavy in the parts of this where the stones are. Naturally, these layers are somewhat heavy because it's more than 5 centimeters the height. So I'm not sure if I could actually say this as a scrapbooking layout, but maybe something more to put on a frame, especially if that would be a gift. Like you have been in a trip with your friend and you want to give him or her a nice memento of those times, then this kind of project in a frame, like a shadow box tile frame would be maybe a fun summer gift. Like so. Then it's kind of the second step of the stand. There's the teeny tiny grains, and then there's more pebbles like in a normal sandy beach, different grain sizes. And then difference between this one and this one is just a saying and some finishing touches with sequins. Like I said, I'm going to add a little bit more of the seashells later on, but as it's the same, kind of this, all the same, adding, so there's probably no point of you needing to watch that one. Then just a couple of sequins. I like to use these kind of scattered little elements to finish my projects. The crystals Prima has are also perfect for this kind of confetti styled sprinkled across the page, sorry, kind of effect. But this time I happen to have totally matching color of sequins. We're still there, perhaps. So I thought to use those. And then the line is actually from Art Daily sticker book, which I then adhered on top. But if you're planning to change the photo later on, then all the layers coming on top of the photo are maybe not making that much sense, or then you need to adhere them from this edge so we can just slide the actual photo underneath. But yeah, there's my 2 cents worth of oil pastels, different techniques, and using the beautiful Surfboard collection, and kind of making your dream vacation without actually needing to go anywhere, as the situation what it is at the moment. So make the best of your time at home, and think about all the things you're going to do after things settle again with the virus situation. Thank you so much for coming. It means a lot, and I'll go through the comments in a second. And well, hope to see you in August, which is going to be my last Facebook Live for Prima Marketing, as I'm not reapplying to the design team this year. So I can't wait to see what the new team will come up with. Probably something gorgeous and inspiring. But yeah, thank you and have a nice summer. Stay safe, everybody. And well, see you next time. Bye bye.